Hi everyone, this is the Nordic Venture Show, your guide to the exciting world of Nordic startups and venture capital. In today's episode, we're exploring a startup called QMill.
It seems like quantum computing is on everyone's mind these days.
Yeah, definitely seems like it's having a moment.
And with good reason, right? The potential is,
Oh, it's enormous.
just massive. We're talking about industries being completely revolutionized.
Whole industries, yeah.
So today we're going to do a deep dive into one company in particular that's been making a lot of headlines.
Okay.
And that is QMill,
QMill.
a Finnish startup that is making some pretty bold claims.
They're certainly not lacking in ambition.
Not at all. The big one that caught our eye is that they're claiming to be on the verge of delivering quantum advantage.
Yeah, that's the buzzword right now, isn't it? Quantum advantage.
It is, and
Everyone wants it.
everyone wants it. But what's interesting to me is how QMill says they'll achieve it.
Right.
They're not saying, oh, we need to wait for perfect quantum computers in the future.
Yeah.
They're saying they can do it now
With the computers we have now.
with the limitations that we have today.
Yeah, in the NISQ era, as they call it.
Exactly. And we've been looking at a lot of their material, their website, press releases about their recent funding, articles from all sorts of tech publications, and it all points to this very unique approach.
Mm-hmm.
So help me understand this. What is it about QMill's path to quantum advantage that makes it stand out?
Well, they're working within what's called the noisy intermediate scale quantum era,
Okay.
or NISQ.
NISQ.
And that basically means that the quantum computers we have today are powerful,
Mhm.
but they're also prone to errors.
Oh, I see.
So it's a bit like,
They're not quite perfect yet.
yeah, imagine trying to run a complex calculation on a calculator,
Okay.
but some of the buttons are a bit unreliable.
Ah, a faulty calculator.
Exactly. That's kind of what it's like working with quantum computers right now.
So how do they get anything meaningful done with that?
Well, that's where their focus on algorithms comes in.
Okay.
So instead of waiting for the calculator to be fixed, so to speak,
Right.
they're designing algorithms that are specifically built to work around the errors that are inherent in these NISQ systems.
It's pretty clever.
It's like finding these really ingenious ways to get the right answer, even when some of your tools are a bit wonky.
I like that analogy. So where will this actually make a difference? Where will we see this in the real world?
Yeah, that's the key question, right?
QMill's website mentions finance, telecoms, logistics,
Oh, huge industries.
massive industries that touch pretty much all of our lives, really.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what's their game plan? What are they actually trying to do?
It's about applying these algorithms, these NISQ era algorithms, to really specific, very complex problems in these industries.
Okay.
So let's take logistics, for example. Let's say you're a global shipping company
Mm-hmm.
and you're trying to optimize your routes.
Right.
You've got all these constantly shifting variables, right?
Weather patterns, traffic.
Exactly. Port congestion.
Oh, yeah, and even like geopolitical events.
No, absolutely. Wars, pandemics.
It's a mind-boggling amount of data to process.
It really is. And even with the most powerful supercomputers we have today, we're still limited in how much we can really optimize things in real time.
It's just too much.
Yeah, there are just too many variables.
And that's the gap that QMill wants to bridge.
Exactly. They believe that their algorithms can handle that level of complexity
Wow.
in a way that just wasn't possible before.
So what does that actually look like? Give me a real-world example.
Okay, so imagine ships that are dynamically rerouting themselves to avoid storms
Okay.
or to avoid port delays.
So they're constantly adjusting based on all these changing factors.
Yeah, and that saves time,
Saves fuel.
saves fuel, and reduces emissions.
So it's good for the environment, too.
Exactly. That's the kind of impact they're aiming for.
So it's not just optimization, then. It's almost like predictive logistics.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. They're trying to get ahead of the curve.
Wow. And what could that do for global supply chains? Especially as they become even more interconnected.
Oh, the potential is enormous.
Especially as things become more and more complicated.
Exactly. And it's not just about logistics.
Right.
In finance, they're looking at portfolio optimization, but on a whole other level. We're talking about analyzing risk and opportunity across thousands of assets simultaneously,
Wow.
factoring in an incredible number of market conditions.
All in real time.
Yeah, all in real time.
So taking those split-second trading decisions that high-frequency traders are already making,
Mm-hmm.
but giving them quantum-powered insights that no human could ever hope to process.
Precisely. It's about pushing the boundaries of what's possible in these industries. And that's why QMill is attracting so much attention and, more importantly, investment.
Well, that's right. They just secured $4 million in seed funding.
Which is a lot for a seed round.
It is. Plus a $1 million grant.
So they're definitely well funded.
And that kind of money doesn't just get thrown around lightly, does it?
It certainly doesn't. That level of investment speaks volumes about the confidence that people have in QMill's approach.
Yeah, people are willing to put their money where their mouth is.
Exactly. And it also underscores the urgency of this quantum computing race.
Mm-hmm.
Investors are betting big on those who can deliver practical results.
Right. They want to see a return on their investment.
Of course. And QMill is positioning itself to be a front runner.
And when you look at the team they've assembled, it's hard not to be impressed.
Oh, yeah. They got a really strong team.
Dr. Hannu Kauppanen, former CTO of Nokia Technologies, Professor Mikko Matonen. These are heavy hitters in the world of quantum research, right?
Absolutely. And not to mention the rest of their founding team.
The whole team is stacked.
Yeah, they've got a great mix of people with deep theoretical understanding,
Right.
but also extensive experience in bringing complex technologies to market.
That's important, isn't it? To have that real-world experience.
It's crucial. Dr. Kauppanen's background at Nokia speaks to that practical side.
Right.
They know what it takes to translate cutting-edge science into real-world solutions.
And that's reflected in the buzz around them, I think.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Some of these headlines really jump out.
They do. Algorithm startup QMill vows to become first to provide quantum advantage.
I mean, that's bold, but it also feels very deliberate.
It does. And then there's the one in Finnish. Nelgen Totorin Unelma.
Ah, yes.
The dream of 4 doctors.
Referring to the founders' PhDs.
Yeah.
They're not shying away from the spotlight, that's for sure.
Not at all. They're leaning into it.
Yeah, and it's feeding into this quantum gold rush atmosphere that's building.
Right. There's this sense that we're on the verge of something truly transformative.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone wants to be a part of it.
Exactly. But the question remains, can QMill actually deliver on their promises?
That is the million-euro question, literally.
Literally. So let's
Dig deeper.
Yeah, let's break down what makes them so potentially disruptive and what challenges they might face along the way.
Sounds good to me. What do you think?
Well, I think it's crucial to understand the landscape that they're operating in. We're still very much in the early days of quantum computing, which means
It's the Wild West out there.
it really is. There's a lot of uncertainty.
Yeah, a lot of unknowns.
Absolutely. And that's where things get really interesting for me.
Okay, how so?
Because QMill isn't just betting on the technology.
Right.
They're betting on their ability to adapt and innovate as the field evolves.
Which is smart because it's changing so quickly.
Exactly. And that brings us to one of the biggest challenges they face.
Which is?
Scalability.
Okay.
So let's say they achieve quantum advantage with their algorithms on today's NISQ computers.
Mm-hmm.
Can they maintain that advantage as the technology improves?
Right, because the hardware is going to keep getting better.
Exactly. As those faulty buttons get fixed, so to speak.
That's a great point.
If the hardware is constantly evolving, their algorithms need to keep pace, maybe even reinvent themselves entirely.
So it's not a one-and-done situation.
Not at all. It's a constant race.
So how do they do that? How do they stay ahead of the curve?
That's where their focus on specific industry problems comes in.
Right.
By deeply understanding the needs of logistics, finance, and telecoms.
They can tailor their approach.
Exactly. They can tailor their algorithms to address the most pressing challenges.
Challenges that will likely remain relevant even as the underlying technology changes.
Right, because some problems are timeless.
So it's not just about being first to the finish line.
Yep.
It's about running a race that keeps getting longer and more complex.
That's a great way to put it. It's about staying ahead of the curve, not just catching up to it.
And that's where their team's expertise becomes crucial.
Absolutely. They need to be visionaries, able to anticipate where the field is going and adapt their approach accordingly.
It almost makes you think of those early pioneers of the internet.
Yeah, I can see that. Figuring things out as they went.
Constantly iterating, pushing the boundaries.
Exactly. And just like those early internet pioneers, QMill faces a landscape that's constantly shifting.
Not just technologically.
Right, but also in terms of competition.
Oh, that's right. They're not the only ones vying for this quantum advantage.
Not even close.
There are huge companies out there.
Massive companies.
Well-funded research labs. It's a crowded field.
it's incredibly competitive.
So that's another challenge they need to navigate, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure. They need to stand out from the crowd.
How do they do that?
They need to demonstrate not just their technical capabilities,
Mm-hmm.
but also their ability to deliver practical, scalable solutions that give them a real edge.
Which is why the recent funding is so significant.
It is. It gives them the resources to build their team,
Mm-hmm.
refine their technology, and crucially, get their solutions in front of potential customers.
Get it out there in the world.
Exactly. It's one thing to have a brilliant idea,
Right.
but it's another thing entirely to turn that idea into a viable business.
To make it real.
Yeah, and that's the journey QMill is on.
A journey that we'll continue to follow closely, I'm sure. But for now, let's zoom in on what their success could mean for the world. Because if QMill truly delivers on its promises, the implications are enormous.
They really are. We're talking about potentially reshaping the foundations of some of the most critical industries on the planet.
And that's what we'll explore next. The potential impact of QMill's work on the world and on you, the listener.
Stay tuned. It's almost like stepping back in time, isn't it?
Well, how so?
This feeling of being on the cusp of a technological revolution,
Okay, yeah.
reminiscent of, the early days of the internet or even the dawn of the computer age.
Yeah, I see what you mean. There is that same sense of anticipation, of knowing that things are about to change in a really profound way,
Right.
but not quite being able to grasp the full extent of it.
Exactly. It's still so early.
But unlike those earlier revolutions,
Yeah.
quantum computing feels different.
It does. It feels different.
Heck out.
Well, the potential impact is so much broader.
Okay.
It cuts across so many different facets of our lives.
Right. And we've talked about logistics and finance. But let's delve a little deeper into how QMill's vision for quantum advantage could actually reshape those industries.
Okay, let's do that. So let's
start with logistics.
Yeah, logistics. Imagine you're a logistics company
Okay.
struggling with all the complexities of global shipping.
Right. Which is basically every logistics company.
Pretty much. So what does a quantum advantage world look like for you?
Yeah, paint me a picture.
Okay, so picture this. You're no longer reacting to disruptions.
Okay.
You're anticipating them.
Wow.
Your ships are dynamically adjusting their routes
Okay.
based on real-time weather patterns, factoring in predicted port congestion.
So they know where the problems are going to be before they even happen.
Exactly. And they can even respond to geopolitical events as they unfold.
Wow. So it's like having a crystal ball.
It's like having a crystal ball,
It's like having a crystal ball.
but one that's powered by quantum algorithms crunching unimaginable amounts of data.
Exactly. And it's not just about efficiency either.
Correct.
Think about the environmental impact.
Right.
Ships burning less fuel. Optimizing their journeys to minimize emissions.
Okay.
Quantum-powered logistics could be a game changer for sustainability.
So it's a win-win.
Potentially, it could be a huge win-win.
Faster deliveries
Lower costs.
and a greener planet.
Exactly.
Hmm.
It's hard to wrap your head around the scale of the impact it could have.
It really is. And that's just one industry.
Right. Now let's step into the world of finance.
Okay.
Imagine a world where investment portfolios are managed with a level of sophistication that seems impossible today.
Okay.
Think about analyzing every publicly traded company, every commodity, every currency,
Okay.
factoring in every conceivable market condition,
All in real time.
all in real time.
That's light years beyond even the most advanced algorithms used by hedge funds today.
Oh, absolutely. It's a whole different ballgame.
It's almost like having a quantum-powered oracle whispering the secrets of the market in your ear.
That's a great image. It's about making decisions with a level of precision and foresight that's never been possible before. Right, because you're not just reacting to the market anymore.
Exactly. You're anticipating it.
You're seeing things that other people can't see.
Precisely. Of course, this raises important questions about access and fairness.
Right, because who gets to benefit from this quantum advantage?
That's the crucial question.
If this technology truly lives up to the hype, it could create a massive power shift.
It could. Those who have access to quantum-powered insights
Right.
could have an unprecedented edge in the market.
And that's a scary thought,
It is a bit scary, isn't it?
because it could exacerbate existing inequalities.
Exactly. And that's where the conversation about responsible development and access becomes so important.
So we need to be thinking about this now.
We do. We need to ensure that quantum computing doesn't just make the rich richer,
Right.
that it actually serves to create a more level playing field.
It's almost like a societal imperative.
It is. As we unlock these incredibly powerful tools, we have a responsibility to ensure that they're used ethically, and for the benefit of all.
And that responsibility extends beyond just the technology itself.
It does. It's about fostering a society that's equipped to understand and navigate this new quantum landscape.
Which is why these deep dives are so important.
They are, because understanding quantum computing isn't just about grasping the technical details.
Right.
It's about grappling with the implications.
The bigger picture.
Exactly. The economic implications, the societal implications.
Even the philosophical implications.
Absolutely. It challenges us to think about the future we want to create.
A kind of world we want to live in.
Exactly. Do we want a world where quantum advantage is concentrated in the hands of a few?
Right.
Or do we want a world where it empowers everyone?
That's the question we need to be asking ourselves.
It is. It's a question that deserves very careful consideration because the choices we make today will shape the quantum future we inherit tomorrow.
And that brings us back to QMill.
Right. Because they're not just developing algorithms. They're shaping a narrative about what quantum advantage means for the world.
They're putting a stake in the ground.
They are. And that's why their story is so compelling.
It is. It's not just about the technology.
Right.
It's about the vision.
Exactly. And it's about the values.
They're not just racing to be first.
Nope.
They're striving to make quantum computing a force for good in the world.
And that's something we can all get behind.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But even with the best intentions, the path forward won't be easy.
It won't. QMill faces a myriad of challenges.
Like what?
Well, not just technological challenges, but also competitive and ethical challenges.
Okay, so let's unpack those challenges a bit.
Yeah, let's do that. What are the biggest hurdles they need to overcome to truly deliver on this vision of a quantum-powered future?
Well, one of the most immediate challenges is simply the pace of technological advancement.
It's moving so fast.
It is.
Yeah.
And as we've discussed, the hardware is constantly evolving, which means QMill's algorithms need to keep up. It's like building a house on shifting sand.
That's a great analogy. You need to be incredibly agile, constantly adapting your foundation to the changing terrain.
And that requires a lot of resources.
It does. A lot of investment, a lot of R&D, even for a well-funded startup like QMill.
Especially when you consider the competition.
Right, because they're not playing in a vacuum.
You've got tech giants like Google and IBM pouring billions into quantum research.
Billions. It's a whole different league.
So how can a company like QMill even hope to compete on that scale?
It's a David versus Goliath scenario for sure.
It really is.
But QMill's advantage lies in their laser focus.
Okay.
They're not trying to build the best quantum computer. They're focused on developing the best algorithms for very specific industry problems.
It's like specializing in a niche market.
Exactly. Becoming the go-to expert for a particular set of challenges.
And that allows them to be more nimble.
It does. They can move, quickly iterate and innovate at a pace that larger companies may struggle to match.
But even if they can outmaneuver the competition, there's still the question of adoption.
Right. Convincing companies to actually embrace this new technology.
To trust that it can deliver on its promises.
And to invest their own time and resources into implementing it.
That's not a small feat.
It's a huge hurdle, and it requires more than just technical prowess.
Okay, what else does it require?
Well, it requires building trust.
Okay.
Demonstrating tangible benefits.
Right, showing that it actually works.
Exactly. And addressing concerns about security and data privacy.
Because those are real concerns.
They are. People are understandably hesitant to jump into something new and untested, especially when it comes to their data.
So it's about proving that quantum computing isn't just some futuristic fantasy, but a practical tool that can solve real-world problems today.
Exactly. And that's where QMill's focus on specific industry use cases comes in.
Okay, how so?
Well, by showcasing how their algorithms can optimize shipping routes, enhance investment strategies, or design more efficient telecommunications networks.
Okay.
They can build a compelling case for adoption.
It's about showing, not just telling.
Exactly. Demonstrating the power of quantum computing through real-world results.
And as those results start to trickle in, as companies begin to see the tangible benefits of a quantum advantage, that's when the real revolution begins.
That's the tipping point.
It's almost like a tipping point.
Yeah, once a certain threshold is reached, once enough early adopters start seeing success,
Right.
then the floodgates open.
And everyone wants in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's the moment that QMill is working towards.
The moment when their vision for practical quantum computing becomes a reality.
It's a bold ambition, but one that has the potential to change everything.
It really does. So as we wrap up this part of our deep dive,
Okay.
let's shift our focus to the listener.
Yeah, let's bring it back to the individual.
What does this all mean for you?
Right. How might QMill's quest for quantum advantage actually impact your life?
Your work, your future.
That's the question we'll explore in our final segment.
Okay, can't wait.
Because ultimately, the most important implications of quantum computing are the ones that touch our lives, the ones that shape our future.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here, talking about QMill's ambitions and their approach and the potential impact on these massive industries.
Mm-hmm. It's a lot to take in.
It is. It's pretty mind-blowing stuff.
Yeah.
But I think what everyone really wants to know is...
What does it mean for me?
Exactly.
Yeah.
How will quantum computing, and maybe specifically QMill's work,
Mm-hmm.
how will that change my life?
It's the question we all want to know the answer to, right?
It is. And it's tough because we're trying to predict the ripple effects of a technology that's still very much in its early stages.
Right. It's like trying to predict the weather a year from now.
Exactly. But we can make some educated guesses.
We can. And based on what we know about QMill's target areas, finance, logistics, telecoms,
Yeah.
we can start to paint a picture.
Okay, so paint me a picture.
Right.
5, 10 years down the line. QMill is successful. What does my world look like?
Well, let's start with something that affects us all.
Okay.
The cost and efficiency of goods.
Okay.
If QMill's algorithms are truly optimizing global shipping routes the way they envision, you could see faster delivery times,
Okay.
maybe even lower prices on products as those logistical bottlenecks get ironed out.
So online shopping gets even faster and cheaper.
It's possible. Imagine ordering something and having it delivered by a drone a few hours later.
Drone deliveries powered by quantum algorithms zipping through the sky.
Exactly. Maybe not drones just yet, but the idea of a more responsive, more dynamic supply chain, that's certainly within the realm of possibility.
Okay, that's pretty cool. And it goes beyond just physical goods.
It does. Think about telecommunications. QMill's talking about designing vastly more efficient networks.
Hold on. So does that mean my internet could actually get faster?
What if it could? We've all kind of hit that point where we assume download speeds have plateaued.
Yeah, like we've reached the limit.
Right, but what if we haven't? What if QMill's algorithms allow for a level of network optimization that we can't even conceive of right now?
Okay, I'm listening.
Suddenly streaming, downloading, even virtual reality experiences become seamless, lag-free. And that impacts how we work, how we learn, how we entertain ourselves.
It's a fundamental shift.
It really is. It changes everything.
It's funny. I was thinking about the fun side of things. Like, yeah, awesome, better gaming.
Right.
But you're right. This has huge implications for telemedicine, remote work, all these things that rely on fast, stable connections.
Exactly. It could even help to bridge the digital divide.
Wow, bringing high-speed internet to parts of the world that have never had it before.
That's the potential upside, and it's exciting to think about, but we also have to be realistic about the challenges.
Right.
QMill's success isn't guaranteed.
Of course not.
There are technical hurdles to overcome, competition from very well-established players. Even if they achieve quantum advantage, widespread adoption takes time.
Right. It's not going to happen overnight.
Exactly. And let's not forget the potential downsides.
Right. The ethical considerations.
Yeah, we talked about that earlier.
This idea that quantum computing could actually exacerbate inequalities if access is limited to just a select few.
That's a real danger.
It is. If this technology becomes the key to unlocking economic and technological power, we have to make sure it doesn't create a two-tiered society.
We do. There need to be safeguards in place, regulations, maybe even initiatives to democratize access to quantum computing resources.
So it's not just about developing the technology. It's about making sure that everyone benefits from it.
Absolutely. And that's a conversation that needs to involve everyone.
Right, not just the scientists and engineers.
Exactly. We all have a stake in this.
And I think that's the biggest takeaway from this whole deep dive.
What's that?
Quantum computing isn't some abstract concept anymore.
It's not science fiction.
It's real. It's a force that's shaping our future, whether we're aware of it or not.
And it's happening now.
It is. And understanding what's at stake, asking the tough questions.
Right.
That's on all of us.
It's our responsibility to be informed.
Exactly. It's about becoming informed citizens of this quantum age.
Because the choices we make now, the conversations we have, will determine what this future looks like.
It really will.
Yeah.
Will it be a future of opportunity or a future of division?
That's the question we need to answer.
I, for one, am cautiously optimistic.
Okay.
companies like QMill, with their focus on solving real-world problems, their awareness of the ethical considerations.
Right, they're not just thinking about the bottom line.
Exactly. They give me hope that we can navigate this transition responsibly.
Me too. I think that's a great note to leave our listeners on, a sense of informed hope.
Like that.
Quantum computing is coming. It has the potential to change everything, but it's up to us to ensure that change is for the better.
Beautifully said. And with that, we'll wrap up this deep dive into the world of QMill and the race for quantum advantage.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
We hope you've learned something, maybe even been inspired to learn more, because the future is being written right now, and we all have a role to play in shaping it.
Thanks for listening to the Nordic Venture Show. Don't forget to subscribe and stay tuned for more stories of innovation from the Nordics.